Hey guys, in this video I'm going to show you an example of my baby batch cooking. So I usually like to do this 1 to 2 times a week, and it really doesn't even take that long, and it's totally worth it. And I know exactly what I'm feeding my kids, and I just love doing this. So I'm going to share it with you. It's a lot easier than you think. Okay, cool. So I'm making 2 things today because I already made my pear and apple puree. So this is basically just apple and pear sauce, and it's awesome. My kids love it. So that's this. And now we're gonna make 2 more things. Normally you would look at this as a parent, you're like, my kid will never eat that. I'm telling you, my kids love this stuff. My toddler is a little too old now to eat the puree, but when she was a baby, this was her favorite, and this is now my son's favorite. So I have kale, spinach, zucchini, he's very excited, broccoli, and I sweeten it with some apple. So we're gonna steam all this together, and then separately what we're gonna do is steam some zucchini, and this, now that he's eating chunks, I'm gonna steam this separately, chop it up into very small pieces, mix it in, and this will be his chunks. So this is his greens. And then now what we're gonna get ready is the butternut squash puree, which I'm gonna add carrots and then an apple and a pear for some sweetness. The butternut squash is pretty sweet too, but this adds a little sweetness kick, which is awesome. Okay, great, let's get started. So these are all ready, so I'm gonna put these to the side. And I actually already have half of a butternut squash prepped and cleaned, but I like to use a whole butternut squash, so I'm also gonna use half of this one. So I've showed you guys how to do this before. Okay, so now let's just scoop the seeds out. I always like having a clean cutting board, so I just tuck my bag ends at the end of my cutting board, something I've been doing for years. And it really helps have a clean cutting board. You kind of, scrape it to the side. You want to get all the little stringy, like the little hairy things out, the stringy things out, because they really don't taste that good. Make it sturdy. So now what we're going to do is just cut off the skin, just like that. Because we're going to be steaming these are pretty good size chunks like that. And now we're just going to do the whole rest of the butternut squash just like that. I love making my kids' food because I know exactly what's in it. There's no ingredients in there that make it shelf stable or anything like that. No preservatives. I know exactly what's going into their little bodies. It really is worth the effort. A lot of times when I'm doing my batch cooking, I'll just put like a book on tape on. I'll just listen to my headphones. Maybe I'll FaceTime with somebody. I'm all about multitasking. So you can figure out ways to do other things while you're doing this. I also will listen to master classes, like a podcast. I do that a lot, actually. I want to use this one. So this one I'm actually going to put in my fridge because this one's a little older. So I want to use this one first. So now we're going to cook all this stuff together. Like, this is really easy. So now we're going to peel these, chop them up, get them in with the butternut squash, and throw them in our steamer. So the way that I choose the things that I'm going to leave, chunky, so this is all going to be pureed. But once everything is steamed, I'm actually going to use the apple. I'm going to chop the apple up because that'll be a nice sweet crunch when my baby, chews into it for that little chunk. So these are going to be pureed with everything else. The pear is also really good to leave chunky as well. But pears, I tend to blend the pears in because they really oxidize and they don't look super pretty. The apple tends to look prettier in it. And even for my babies, I want the food to look pretty. Okay. Great. Let's get the apple going, and then we're just going to throw these on the steamer. You don't have to pair them. For my baby, I'm still pairing his food. As they get older, you know, you don't have to do that, but I still like to pair most of his food at this point because he's almost a year. Okay, great. So now we can start with the greens, get that finished off, and then we'll do this. And then my baby batch cooking is done. Here we go. So I put in a lot of the leafy greens because they cook down to almost nothing. They cook down so small. So then now we're just gonna cover this and we're gonna cook this until a knife easily pierces through on the apple and the broccoli and the zucchini. After a few minutes, you kind of want to give it a stir. You want to just stir everything around. Just kind of move it around a little bit. See, already you can see how much the greens cooked down. Okay, so this should be totally cooked now. Piercing through easily. Great. So now we're going to continue to use this water. So I'm just going to turn down the flame and scoop all this back into the bowl. And then from here, we're going to put it in the blender. But first I'm going to get everything cooked so then we can just do everything in the blender. We want to turn the water down so it doesn't all evaporate. So now let's do, so these are the separate zucchini that are going to be chopped up for some chunks in there. So let's get those steamed. Okay, so these are really nice and tender. Those are perfect. Just going to scoop these out. Next, right into the same pot. So easy. Same thing, we're going to cover it, and as soon as a knife can easily pierce through, this is done. Okay, we're going to give everything a little stir. We've been cooking for a few minutes. Just cover it up and let it keep cooking. So the butternut squash is totally done. Tender, knife pierces easily through. So now I'm going to put all this into a bowl and I'm going to preserve a few of these apple pieces to chop up for the chunks. This is going in the blender. Still pretty hot. Always start your blender on low. Okay, great. That looks awesome. So now what we're going to do is pour the puree in here, mince up these little apple chunks, and then these are going to be the chewy bits that is good for my baby to practice chewing. Whoa. The other thing too is this is really similar to how I make my butternut squash soup. I basically make it the same way, and then I would just add some kind of homemade chicken broth, a little bit of cream, salt, pepper. Oh, so good. Okay, so I so badly wanted to eat this, but I'm not going to. All right, let's mince this up now. So we're just gonna mince this up super small. So because my baby's only about a year, you know, he's still learning to chew. So I make this pretty small, even though it's super soft. It's looking good though. Okay, great. Now what we're gonna do, scoop it straight in. Look at how beautiful this is. Ugh. That's like the perfect amount of chunk in there. That's, it sounds gross, but it's the perfect consistency for him. I know he's gonna love it. Honestly, my toddler would love this too. This is all the stuff I made for her. Oh my gosh. So good. Beautiful. So good. Now we're gonna rinse this. We're gonna do the same thing with the greens. So easy. Greens. We're we're gonna do this the same way. Blender's plugged in, started on low. It's all about the plunger. You definitely want a blender with a plunger. Let's turn it up. Beautiful. Oh my gosh, I love having this food for my kids. Makes me so happy. Put all that in there. This stuff is like green gold. I want to get every little bit. This food is just so good for him. Okay, so now, just like we did with the last thing, we are going to chop up the zucchini and do the same thing. Just give it a nice mince. Makes me so happy having this food in the fridge. I can't even tell you guys. I'm like all about having food batch cooked for my family. Just makes me so happy knowing that these nutrients are in the fridge and that now when I go to feed my baby, it's so much easier during a hectic week. Because working from home, I don't know about you guys, but I find it a lot harder. I feel like the days go by so much quicker. And it's a lot easier to be distracted. Okay, so now we're just gonna mix this in. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. This is like, talk about a superfood. You guys, that is so delicious. I can't even tell you. I have leftover labels. I need a better system for the label situation. That's for sure. We'll get there. You guys, check this out. Look at this beautiful food I have batch cooked for my baby. Oh my gosh. How easy was that? So easy. Now I have all this food. And now when I have this type of stuff, I can now improvise with it. I can add some of my brown rice. I can add chopped chicken. I can do a bunch of different stuff. Just this morning, I actually made him some leftover greens that I already had in the fridge. I used the last of it with some my brown rice that I cook with bone broth. And then I just mixed in a little scrambled egg. So, but the fact that I have this, like the base made, it just makes life so much easier. Yay, baby batch cooking. I hope you guys like this video. Subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you know when I put up another one. And I'll see you guys next time.
Okay.